medical testing equipment or biomedical testing equipment will be the topic of this video. Medical testing equipment are used to test electrical safety, performance, and functionality of a medical device or system according to a specific standard such as the IEC 6061-1. This standard has been developed by IEC, the International Electro-technical Commission. There are many commercial manufacturers of medical testing equipment. In this video, I will only cover 3 of them. The first one will be Fluke Biomedical, the second one will be RIGEL Medical, and the third one will be the BC Group. So why we need to use the medical testing equipment? The answer will be to ensure that these devices are electrically safe for patients and operators, and secondly, to ensure that the performance of these devices is within the limits which have been defined by a specific standard, such as the IEC 6061-1. I will give an example. The inspection and preventive maintenance for an infant incubator. In order to perform the inspection and preventive maintenance, the IPM, we call it the IPM, for an infant incubator, we need an electrical safety analyzer, and we need also an incubator analyzer. An electrical safety analyzer could be similar to ESA 620, and the incubator analyzer could be similar to INCU 2 incubator analyzer. Both of them have been developed by Fluke Biomedical. As we said before, the testing should be done according to a specific standard. For this infant incubator, the electrical safety should be done according to IEC 6061-1-1, and the performance testing of an infant incubator will be made according to the IEC 6061-2-19. So what is the IPM? The IPM is inspection and preventive maintenance. It's made up of four major parts. The first part is a general physical inspection to ensure there's no damage or harm for the device. The second part will be about electrical safety to ensure this device is safe electrically to use for neonates and infants or operators. And the third part will be a preventive maintenance of this device, of the infant incubator, and should be made according to the recommendations of the manufacturer of this infant incubator. And the last part will be about the testing of the performance of this device, as we said before, according to IEC 6061-1. I will take two forms of the IPM, one which has been developed by the ECRI, and the other one which has been developed by Fluke Biomedical. In both, we start with a description of the procedure and why we use this procedure. For example, in the ECRI, they have said they use it for incubators, mobile one, transport, or fixed one. Also, what are the period for this IPM? It should be done annually. Also, another point, what are the testing equipment which should be used, which is, as we said before, the electrical safety analyzer and the incubator analyzer. As we can see here, this is the first part of the IPM for the ECRI. We need to enter the facility, the department, work order number, date, inspector, manufacturer model, serial number, and so on. And what are the test apparatus or the testing equipment? As we said, we need an electrical safety analyzer. We need an incubator analyzer, and we also sometimes need a patient simulator if this incubator has an optional pulse oximeter or non-invasive blood pressure. The ECRI, the IPM, which has been developed by ECRI, is separated into three parts. The first part will be about, we call it the qualitative test, which is, as we said before, a general check-up of the physical integrity of this device. We look for damages in every part. For example, in the probes, in the brakes, in the AC plug, line cord, the motor, fans, whatever. The second part in the ECRI IPM form is the quantitative tasks, which is include an electrical safety and performance testing of the infant incubator. The last part will be the third part will be about the preventive maintenance. As we said before, it should be made according to the recommendations of the manufacturers. So we should look for the service manual of this manufacturer to perform the preventive maintenance according to the recommendation of this manufacturer. Whereas in the ECRI, in the Fluke Biomedical, the IPM form will be separated into four parts. As for the recommendation for the performing of this IPM, or the preventive inspection and preventive maintenance, it's similar to the ECRI. It should be annual. In the Fluke Biomedical, they put the estimated time to perform such IPM, which will be around 120 minutes. Also, we need to enter the information related to this device, the control number, the manufacturer, serial number, hospital, model, and the location, which is will be the department and specific room. And also the testing information, the technician, the date, the test type. As we said before, it's an IPM form. However, we can use the same form for the initial inspection if we have a new device which will be deployed and put in service. Also, the testing equipment, as we said before, we need an electrical safety analyzer, we need an incubator analyzer, and in case we have, as we said before, a pulse oximeter as option in this infant incubator, we need to use pulse oximeter simulator reader, or analyzer. The IPM for the infant incubator, which has been developed by Fluke Biomedical, will be separated into four parts and not three parts as in the case of the ECRI. The first part will be a general physical checkup or physical condition, the checkup of the physical condition. It's similar to the part in the qualitative in the ECRI. The second part will be an electrical safety, which is similar to the part in the quantitative testing or quantitative tasks. The third part is a preventive maintenance. The last part will be the performance testing. So a small comparison between an ECRI and IPM will be made now. But prior to that, as we said, the electrical safety and the performance testing should be made according to the IEC standard 6061-1 for electrical safety and IEC 6061-2-19 for the performance of the infant incubator. In this graph, we see the performance testing, the range, the different parameters of the performance testing for an infant incubator. We have first a warm-up time, we have the time temperature variation, we have the steady temperature condition, and so on. A comparison between the ECRI and the Fluke Biomedical concerning the IPM form. As we said before, both of them are used to test the physical condition and electrical safety and performance of this device, as well as to make the preventive maintenance. However, in the ECRI, the IPM form is separated into three parts: the qualitative and the quantitative, and finally the preventive maintenance. Whereas in the Fluke Biomedical, the IPM form is separated into four parts. The first one will be a physical condition. As we said, it's similar to the qualitative. And the second and the fourth part will be about electrical safety and performance, which are similar to the quantitative task in the ECRI. And the last part will be similar, which is the preventive maintenance. The testing equipment which are used for the testing of an infant incubator will be the same. So here is another comparison of the previous IPM which are made by ECRI and Fluke Biomedical. Here are the parameters, and here are the values for them. As we can see, there are some difference between them. Although they are both in the IEC standard, which IEC 6061-19. So why there is a difference between the values? The answer will be that the IEC has different editions. The IEC 6061-1 has 4 editions. So for this now, I will cover the IEC standard. As we said, the IEC, it's an acronym for the International Electro-technical Commission. It was established in 1906. The IEC related to the medical devices is called IEC 6061-1. It was published in 1977, the first edition. The second edition was in 1988. The third edition was in 2005, and the last edition, which is the fourth edition, was developed or published in 2014. An important point should be noticed that the new edition cancels and replaces the previous one. Also, the IEC 6061 -1 refers to the basic safety and the essential performance of the medical equipment and medical electrical systems. As we said, we used this perform this test to ensure that any medical device is electrically safe and performs within the limitations to keep both the patient and the operator safe. So what are the type of standards for the IEC 6061-1? There are three types. The first one is called the primary standards. The second type will be the collateral standard, and the last one be the particular standard. The primary standard or the general standard is called IEC 6061-1. The collateral standards are IEC 6061 -1-X, which is mean unknown, and we'll explain that. For example, if it's IEC 6061-1 -2, it will be about EMC or electromagnetic compatibility. So as we said, we have three types of the standards. We have the primary standards, which is the IEC 6061-1. It's formally known as IEC 6061-1. It's a general requirements for basic safety and essential performance, as we said before. The collateral standards are applied more selectively than the general requirement, either in terms of the topic they cover or the type of the equipment, but they are not specific. There are many collateral standards. We have the first one, which is IEC 6061-1, which is used for electrical safety. In this collateral standard, they classify the device as a class 1, a class 2, and a class 3, and they classify the applied part as B and BF and CF. Whereas the second collateral standard 6061-1-2 is used for the EMC, and the third one will be used for radiation protection. The 6061-18 is used for alarm systems. The particular standards are made for each medical device. For example, we have, as we said previously, the IEC 6061-2-19 is used for infant incubators, whereas each medical device has its own specific or particular standard. So this is the general format for IEC 6061. As we said, we have the general one, we have the collateral, as we said, the IEC 6061-1, and what will be different, the number after the dash. It could be 1 for use for electrical safety, it could be 2 for the electromagnetic compatibility, or called EMC, or it could be 3 for radiation protection, and so on. The third type of standard, as we said, is the particular. Each medical device has a specific particular one. As we said, the one used for the infant incubator is the one 6061-2-19. For example, here are another example. The 6061-2-10 is used to study the performance of the nerve and muscle simulators. So, to summarize the IEC 6061, there are 3 types. The general one, we have the collateral one, which is used to study the electrical safety, electromagnetic compatibility, radiation, and so on. And the last one is used to study the performance of the medical devices, and these are the particular standards. So the current IEC standard, what is the limitation of such a standard? For example, the IEC 6061-1. The current one is made for a standalone environment. For example, when we study the electrical safety or the performance of this device, we study only for this incubator without taking into consideration the impact of the environment. For example, when we use such device or the infant incubator in an ICU room, which is a neonatal intensive care unit room, this device used for neonates. The neonate, in addition to the infant incubator, it will be connected to other devices. The other devices will be similar, like a patient monitor, a ventilator, or could be a phototherapy or another devices. So this patient or the neonate is connected to many devices. When we making the IPM, we only study the performance of the incubator without taking into consideration the impact of this device on other devices and the impact of the other devices on it. I will give a small example. In case we use a phototherapy with this type, the previous type of phototherapy, which uses a fluorescent lamps, this will lead to an increase in the temperature inside this incubator, and we have a false alarm, an increase of the temperature inside it. Another example, when we use a ventilator and we intubated a neonate, also this will raise the temperature of the temperature sensor for the ventilator also lead to a false alarm in the ventilator. So the limitation in IEC is that we only performing the electrical safety test and the performance in a stand-alone environment. So the future IEC standard, I expect it should be made to address the system of system environment, which I mean the electrical safety and the performance of this infant incubator inside or within an ICU room. For example, as we can see here, we have a unit which is connected to many devices. As we can see is in this image, it's connected to a ventilator with a humidifier. It's also connected to infusion pump, syringe pump. It's also connected to a patient monitor, and also could be having a phototherapy treatment. So this is called system of system, which means we should to study the electrical safety and the performance of this specific device, uh, taking into account its interaction with its surrounding environment. So I think the limitation in the current IEC standard is the study of the safety and the performance of this device in a standalone environment and not in a system of system principle such as in a practical life. So this is a typical also an ICU room. As we can see here, we have the patient monitor, we have a syringe pump, infusion pump. Also, we need to use and sometimes we need to use a ventilator based on the condition of this unit. We need to use phototherapy treatment and so on. So thus, the perfect standard or the practical standard should be addressed this point, which is the interaction of this device with the surrounding environment, and not taking the testing of the safety and its performance only based on a standalone environment as it's currently now. This is an example of another application for the infant incubator analyzer. We use it to study the also the performance of an infant warmer. Another also testing equipment which have been developed by the Fluke Biomedical, an electrical surgical unit. Here, as we can see, an electrical surgical unit is used to test an electrical surgical unit developed by Covidian. Another application of the medical testing equipment is the testing of the performance and electrical safety of an anesthesia machine. We can see here in this picture patient simulators which have been developed by Fluke Biomedical, the ProSim 2, 3, and ProSim 4. In this figure, we see the testing of this anesthesia machine, which is Fabius GS, which is developed by Drager. In this page, in this photo or figure, in this picture, sorry, we use the ProSim 4, which is a patient simulator for the testing of the patient monitor, which is connected to this anesthesia machine. Another testing or medical testing equipment is the gas flow analyzer VT650, which also manufactured by Fluke Biomedical. It's used in the testing of flow for ventilators, anesthesia machine, pulmonary function testing, and other machines. Other medical testing equipments are the infusion pump analyzer, IDA5, which is used to the test of the infusion pumps, volumetric and syringe one. Here also we can see another patient simulator, which also developed by Fluke Biomedical, also for testing of patient monitor connected to an anesthesia machine. Another major manufacturer for the testing equipment is RIGEL Medical. We can see here an electrical safety analyzer, the SafeTest 99, which is developed by RIGEL Medical. Here also another testing equipment, PATSAM 200, which is also developed by RIGEL for testing the patient monitors and vital signs. Here also an electrical surgical unit analyzer, Unitherm, also developed by RIGEL to test the electrical surgical unit. The third manufacturer, as we said before, will be the BC Group. As we can see in this picture, they have many types of the medical testing equipments for different applications: a patient monitor, defibrillator analyzer, infusion pump analyzer, gas flow, and so on. In this table, we see the price list for this testing equipment in 2019 for the BC Group. Finally, I will talk about the selection criteria, what we should consider when we want to buy such testing equipment. First of all, the level of automation. We have different level. We have a manual medical testing equipment. We have the semi-automated one and the full automated one. Another point which should be considered, the supported standards. For example, usually the Fluke Biomedical, the medical testing equipment are developed to address the latest standard of IEC, whereas other manufacturers for the medical testing equipment usually they developed testing equipment little bit late. Okay, so we should to consider this point. For example, an electrical safety could be support is first and second and either the third edition, whereas you see another manufacturer which has only support for the first and second edition. So it's important to take this point into consideration, that to look up for what are the supported standards for this electrical safety analyzer or whatever the medical testing equipment. The cost is also an important point which we should consider when we buy medical testing equipment. Generated reports, what are the format, if it will be automatically generated or semi-automated or manual. Another point is connectivity to the computerized maintenance management system. The graphical user interface will be also important to consider. I prefer the user-friendly one, which doesn't need to take a lot of time to be familiar with the different options to scan or to change the settings and so on. Finally, the brand, it's very important. As we said before, some of these manufacturers do not support the latest version of or edition of the specific standard. I will give example. For example, the BC Group, the electrical safety standard developed by BC Group for the third edition. It was developed too so late. For example, it was developed, as I remember, in the early of 2017, whereas this standard was used in Europe in 2009, and in USA it was 2011. So the edition which used for testing the electrical safety used by BC for testing this edition, which is the third edition, was released in 2017, which was too late. By comparison, Fluke Biomedical, they have developed an electrical safety with the third edition in the same year the third edition was published. So this is an important point to consider when buying an electrical safety analyzer or any medical testing equipment. Thank you.